welcome to you all. We are 9 of us this grade. So our webinar today will be about taking advantage of professional development opportunities, the case of scholarships and fellowships. This will be presented by Anestin, who is a multi-award-winning Cameroonian English and French languages teacher. She's also a British Council and UNESCO certified master trainer and a language consultant. Anestin is passionate about innovative language methodologies, innovative teaching methodologies, and teachers' continuous professional development. Her research interests include pre- and in-service teacher education and management. Anestin, welcome.
Thank you
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much, Melanie. Good evening, dear colleagues, and welcome. I see people from Peru. You're welcome to join us. As Melanie rightly said, today we'll be talking about taking advantage of professional development opportunities, and we will be focusing on fellowships and scholarships. So in this presentation, we're going to be looking at two things basically: understanding what professional development is all about, but also looking at scholarship application tips and tricks. So once again, you're all welcome. And please, as I go on talking, you may want to share your ideas in the chat or ask questions. I think Melanie is going to open a session for that. So let's get started. What's professional development and why is it important? So professional development in itself entails gaining new skills once you're already in the workforce. And there are various ways of doing that. So what are the options? We could do that through workshops, so both online and offline, such as attending conferences, webinars, just what you are doing right now, so you're right on track. This is some form of professional development. We could also do that by taking part in teacher association activities. So because teacher associations serve as communities of practice, they serve as professional learning networks. And the way to develop professionally within these networks is to actively participate, to share knowledge, cross-learn from others. Another way of attaining professional development, it's via fellowships. So fellowships are good because they do enable cross-cultural learning. When you attend a fellowship, you benefit from the experiences of teachers across the globe, and you build networks that can sustain your practice and enable you to connect your classrooms to classrooms across the world. So it is also a good learning opportunity. And of course, we've got another kind of professional development which deals with scholarships. So scholarships, generally, they have to do with certified programs. They could be masters, they could be PhD, they could be just a bachelor, but they could also just be a certification of any kind. So overall, it improves your qualification. But why indulge in professional development? Remember, you're already in the workforce, you're already working, you're already making ends meet. So why should you bother developing professionally? Because after all, your salary is guaranteed. So many reasons. One of them is that it helps you to stay abreast with teaching methodologies and helps you to develop best practices. Because as you learn new teaching methodologies, technologies, you improve on your teaching practice. And so this is key for your learning, which means that if you do not research, you do not learn new methodologies, then your teaching practice retrogresses. And probably if you stop learning, then you should probably also stop teaching, because teaching learning is a continuous process. Another advantage of taking part in professional development activities is to better your career performance. So It helps you, professional development activities will help you to develop new skills, and these new skills will help you to find some form of job satisfaction. And they could even come as opportunities for advancement. You could be promoted regional inspector, you could be appointed national pedagogic inspector, you could even change your job. So they are varied opportunities. And finally, and which is even very most important, is that it helps improve learners' performance. So once the teacher is learning continuously, the spillover effects are quite visible on the learners. And so because the teacher has networks, has built networks, he can leverage on those networks to tap resources from other teachers and thus improve his teaching or their teaching. And by improving their teaching, they also improve on learners' performances and meet students' ever-changing needs. But today, we are focusing specifically on scholarships and fellowships. And so in the second part of this presentation, we shall be looking at scholarship tips and tricks. How do we create a winning scholarship application? These tips and tricks I'm sharing are written nowhere. They are from my own personal experiences. So I will be talking from my experiences, citing examples from my personal experiences. I did not get them from anywhere. I kind of generated them over the years with various, with my experience applying for scholarships and fellowships. So the top tip I will give is that read the program goals. So do your findings about the program. Read the program goals. Are you sure this is something you want to do? Continuous professional development is not copy and paste. It is not because Anestin has done this that I must do that. It should meet your passion. And so take time to look at the program goals and objectives. Do they sync with what you want to do? Is it something you can do? Is this something you want to do? If that is something you want to do, then read carefully about the program in between the lines and ensure that your application syncs with the program goals and objectives. I like to talk about this by giving you a little example from my own experience. I remember in 2017, in one of my internet wandering sessions, I'm very good at wandering over the internet, looking for everything and nothing. So in one of my internet wandering sessions, I landed on the Fulbright Tea program. I'd never heard about it. And at the time, I thought my head of department, not that I thought she was actually very close to the US Embassy. So I talked to her about the program and she had no idea. She had never heard about it. And so I decided to search for the email address of the US Embassy. It's always easy to get those email addresses. They're on their Facebook pages. And I wrote to them. I remember I wrote on the 10th of April. And that same day, someone responded, the then cultural affairs assistant. And he told me, yes, the program is valid and deadline for application is 15th of April. Here we are, 10th of April. So the first thing I assumed is that many persons would not know about the program because my head of department did not know about it and she was quite close to the embassy. Another thing is I did not pay attention. I did not have time. First of all, when I saw the mail came in that 10, I saw it on the 11. On the 11, I was quite busy. And so I finally read the email on the 12th just to discover that deadline was the 15th. And so I said, okay, I did not have time to read about the program. You want to imagine what happened. So I wasn't selected. I just drafted something very quickly, submitted, and I wasn't selected. Months after I wasn't selected, I decided to go back and read about that program. And then I discovered the shock of my life. The very first statement in my personal statement, the very first sentence in my personal statement was enough to disqualify me for the program because I had not read the program goals. my very first sentence was contrary to the spirit of the program. And so that's why I say, take time to do your findings, make sure you read the program goals and objectives, you understand them, and ensure that your essays sync with the program goals and objectives. So I immediately understood why I was not any close to being shortlisted. It was very obvious from the very first sentence of my personal statement. The second tip I'd like to share, it's about time. Often, application windows are open. I think the Hornby Scholarship that probably motivated this presentation was launched some 4 or 5 months ago. And the application window will close March 1st. That's a long period, quite a very long period. The Fulbright Seed program has been launched. It was launched in early January. It's been out, and the deadline to apply is the 11th of March. I'm sure, just like me, you're thinking, oh, there's still enough time. This is just January now. I will do this thing in February or even March. It's not a big deal. But the truth is, there is no time because you need to devote time to the application process. It is not an issue to rush over it. If you're planning to rush over it, then you are pushing your application straight into the trash or the bin. So make sure you start applying now. You devote time to applying. And applying now will mean that you start reading the program goals, you understand them, see whether this is something you want to do, you see whether they meet your passion and objectives, your career goals, you see whether what are the requirements, and you start struggling to meet the requirements. So if there are documents that you need to attach, do you have those documents handy? Also, start in time so that you can write your essays and send them to someone to proofread. If you do not start in time and maybe on this 9th of March, you push your essay to someone to help you review, and the person says, sorry, I can't review your essay. I've got a very busy schedule. I'm afraid I'm not free at this time. Then it becomes challenging. But if you do it in time, then there is always a possibility for someone to read and give their view, and you probably have to do so many drafts. That's one thing you should take into consideration. Your first write-up is never going to be good. Even with some of us who have the experience, I will tell you, I do not write my essays at a go. I don't even write them twice. I don't even write them thrice. At times I write them 5, 6, 7, 10 times. So I write the same essay, I close it tomorrow, I open and I start writing a fresh essay, and then the next day, and finally I have 5 essays to look across, compare. And so my final word for tip number 2 will be, start now. Do not procrastinate. On to the third tip. Understand that there are many competitors. You do not have monopoly of information. If I go back to the anecdote I shared with you, I'd asked my head of department if she knew about the Fulbright Seed program. She told me no, she's never heard about it. It's probably new. And in a haste, we concocted something and pushed to the embassy and never got any feedback. And months after, I found out that 4 scholars were selected for that program. And they traveled that year. I was in Cameroon. I did not even know what was happening. I also discovered that the program was initiated in 2014, and that Cameroon had already had scholars for 2014, 15, 16, so there were already many scholars. And here was I, thinking that I had monopoly of information. You do not have monopoly of information. Everyone is aware of the Hornby Scholarship They are aware of the Fulbright program. They are aware of many other opportunities that will be coming because the scholarship windows are just opening up. And at times for these programs, you do not have national competitors. You do have global competitors. It is the case of most scholarships. Take the Hornby scholarship, take the Fulbright program that have been launched. They are not national, they are not based on national competition. So it's not like Cameroon has 2 spots and so you're competing for 2 spots within Cameroon. No. Hornby scholarship is recruiting 10 scholars. It is 10 scholars from everywhere. So you are competing against everyone. The Fulbright program is recruiting 160 scholars across the world. Some countries get 4 scholars in a year. Other countries do not get a scholar. Some countries get 1 scholar. And so always remember that there are global competitors. See your scholarship application as a race with everyone pushing towards the goal. If you see, if you look at the pictures that I put by the tip number 3, then you see everyone struggling, pushing hard, and everyone is aiming to win the prize. So also push hard enough so that you're able to get there. Of course, you want to apply for scholarships. Applications will always have so many essays. There are so many essays, but it is one application. So make sure you address every aspect of the application, answer every essay question, answer every aspect of an essay question, because an essay question could have many aspects, but have a central theme because it is an application. If there are missing links between your essays, or some portions of the essay prompts are not tackled, then you leave the reviewer wondering. So make sure you connect the dots in your essays. And as you struggle to connect the dots, have a central theme. And on to tip number 5, I would say this is something that seems banal, but it's quite important. Choose your referees wisely. There is an article I wrote about the seniority of your referee doesn't matter. So it's not about the seniority of your referee. Nobody cares whether it's the head of state. Nobody cares if it's the prime minister. What they care about is how that person is able to talk about you at the unique and personal level. So choose someone who knows you. Don't choose somebody by virtue of their rank. Mr. Director of has no value. The seniority is inconsequential. So choose somebody who knows you at a personal level, who can say something unique about you. If I show you the reference letter my head of department wrote for me, anyway, at that time, I knew it was a bad reference letter. At least I knew that one. But since we're all in a rush, assuming that no one knew about the scholarship, I just let it go. Do not be contented with generic letters, generic reference letters. Your recommendation should show something about you. It should not just tell. It should show something unique about you. And one way to help your recommenders to give you this kind of unique reference letter is to provide them with a summary of what you do. So when each time I go to someone to reference me, I give them a summary of my professional activities, a summary of my professional and academic achievements, a summary of my community services, a summary of my volunteering work. I give them a comprehensive 1-page note about me. And generally, I give them that summary. It's not static because it will vary depending on the terms of the reference. So always provide them a summary and a CV. Make sure your CV is up to date. You give it to them. It enables them to write something unique about you. Also provide them with the terms of reference or the recommendation letter, because these terms of references do differ from one letter to the other. They are not static. So every scholarship will have a particular term of reference for its recommendation letter. It's important that your referee knows about this. And finally, but not the least, don't give up. Yeah, I know it's challenging, but don't give up. It's an important tip. Many scholarships you see people win or have won, they've not applied once. I applied for Fulbright twice. Okay, I told you my first experience with Fulbright, how I was in a mad rush. And then months after I took my essays, I read them, and I used those essays to build these tips that I'm sharing with you. So each tip I have shared with you was from that experience. Nobody taught me these tips. I read them. I read my essay, read the program goals, and I started underlining what did not work here. My personal statement was contrary to the program goal. I did not read it. I did not have enough time. I sent one rubbish reference letter. My essay wasn't even coordinated. My application was just hanging like the hair of one mad woman. You just flying in disorder. And I also learned never to give up. If I just said, okay, this thing, it looks even like a scam, because if you read my blog on my Fulbright journey, you actually see my experience. It's a life experience. I'm writing like a story. So I at one point I thought it was even a scam. Can this thing even be real? And I decided to try again, but this time around, I decided to try the right way. And finally, I was selected. And these tips, they might not be gospel truth, but so far they have been able to help me enormously. So do not give up. If you fail the first time, don't give up. There is always an opportunity to learn. So probably you have to return to your essays, look at what did not work. Look in between the lines, you will see what did not work. Remember, the road to success is made up of obstacles. And the building blocks to success are mistakes, failures, perseverance. So with that, I say thank you so much for joining me for this session. But before I go, I'd like to leave you with some motivational quotes that will keep you going so that you do not give up. Even if you have applied 5, 6, 7 times, you might just be the next person in line. So without ambition, one starts nothing, and without work, one finishes nothing. It's time to build the ambition. It's time to put in the work. And although it seems impossible, you can do it. Because as Nelson Mandela says it always seems impossible until it is done. And I encourage you to do it. Give it a try. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Anestin, for the wonderful presentation. You say we should not give up. Without ambition, one does nothing. That is something to take home, and it's wonderful. So I just want to, let me quickly get a summary of, quickly rush over what the 6 points that you mentioned. You talked about the fact that we should read the program goals carefully and do findings about the program and ensure that our application synchronizes with the goals and objectives of the program. Devote time to the application process. Know that no one has monopoly of information. As much as you have information about the program, people everywhere also have information. So you need to devote time. You need to prepare very well so that you don't rush over it. You address every aspect of the application. Choose your referees carefully. That's right. Sometimes a referee may just write something very quickly and that will not reflect who you are. And that you are saying that we should provide a summary of the things we do, your activities, provide a referee with terms of reference. And the last point, which is very important, don't give up. Thank you very much. Let us find out if there are questions in the chat box. There are no questions. There are no questions yet. Maybe some people would like to ask their questions. Maybe if there's anyone who has any questions, they can show up their hand and we take the questions. Let's see. No questions still. Anyway, what I can say is that I tried the first time, and from everything that you are saying, I see that in all of these 6 tips that you have given, I'm sure I failed in all of them. Because at one point, I was rushing at the last minute. I could not edit my information on the last day. The printer, I had to print the leave, something like the leave paper for my principal to sign, and on that day there was no electricity, and it was the last day. So I agree with you completely that start in time. We may be saying that the 3 months are long. The 3 months are not long. And from the first experience, during the when I even though I didn't try the second time, but from all what I've listened today, I know that if I'm trying also this time, I would have gone. Maybe if I took 1 step last time, I may take 3 steps this time. Thank you once more.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you. I do not know whether the questions are not forthcoming because the presentation wasn't what they were expecting, or that
No,
maybe our participants are still trying to digest the presentation. Please do ask your questions, even if they are not directly related. I could attempt answering them.
And you said something about the reference getting a referee, which struck me. Like you just go and ask someone to write something about you, and you don't actually give the person information on what they should write about you on, or tell the person what they are writing about, what program are you getting into. So they just write something that cannot even be accepted anywhere. And you are doing maybe wonderful things, but you have not told the referee what to write. So he just writes maybe based on your relationship in school, for example, because from what they always ask a referee, maybe someone with whom you work in school, your immediate superior, maybe your vice principal, your head of department, and he may just write things. Meanwhile, maybe you are carrying out activities in your community that your referee is not aware of. Like you said, we have to provide the referee a summary of your CV and the things that you have been doing in your community, so that when they're writing their letter, they will tailor it towards the needs of the program.
Yes, thank you, Melanie, for emphasizing that that referees are important and the content of their reference letters are important. Can anyone be a referee? That's a question that's coming up. So let me attempt that question. I do not know what goes into the category of anyone, but I'm going to say that yes, anyone can be your referee as long as they are not family members. So anybody at a professional or personal level who is not related to you by blood can be your referee. And generally, you should understand that in our context, writing reference letter, it's not something common. So generally, the people you go to meet to write, even at university lecturers, they might not have written any reference letter in due form in their entire career. So generally, they'll tell you, go and write something, and anything you bring, they sign. Or they will just collect the one that the student office gives you in school, what you generally call scholarity, which is very, very generic. So it's always important to provide a referee with something provide them with the terms of reference. This is what the board, the reviewers are expecting in the reference letter. And in accordance with this, these are the activities I do. These are the things I do. I don't know whether I answered Eunice correctly. Yeah, I was addressing the question, can anyone be your referee? Yeah, sure, anyone can be your referee as long as they are not a family member. And so for some scholarships, they ask you to provide an academic referee, which means it must be a lecturer. They could ask you to provide a professional referee, which could be your colleague, your head of department, your vice principal, your principal, your delegate. At times they ask you to provide a personal referee, but a personal referee is not your family member. It's someone who knows you at a personal level, but who does not work with you in the professional milieu, probably works with you in your volunteering, community service kind of engagement. A question coming in from Maxime. He's wondering where to find scholarships. I think in the forum, we've already announced the scholarships that we mentioned here. So the Fulbright fellowship is open for application now. The link was shared in the forum. Maybe we'll share again. The Hornby scholarship is also open for application. The link has been shared. Maybe we'll share again. The Chivini scholarship already comes up sometime around June, July, August, they launch it. So generally expect scholarship windows to open around the months of August, September, October. Generally, that's when scholarship application windows are open. So you can look up, if you're interested in a particular scholarship, you can follow up. So you can Google the scholarship and start following up about when it will be launched. And definitely you'll get the information. See a question coming in.
Okay.
Is selection done randomly or there's some regional balance consideration? No, I think I did address this question. I said most scholarships have global competitors. So often when you are applying for a scholarship, you might be competing against the whole world. I take the case of the Hornby scholarship, for example. There is nothing as Cameroon has 2 spots or 1 spot. No. The Hornby is recruiting 10 scholars from all over the world. So if you happen to be in the top 10, then you are recruited. Fulbright program, there is no number attributed to any country. The Fulbright program recruits 160 scholars the world over. So you need to force yourself through the 160. Because when we go for these programs, we see 4 members coming in from one country, 4 scholars, whereas you are probably alone from your country, and there are countries without scholars. So it's a global competition. Make sure you put yourself through the net.
Okay, thank you so much.
Great.
Okay. Any more questions? If anybody wants to speak, maybe they can turn on their microphones and say something. We have 2 minutes to go. Yes.
It was a good presentation, a wonderful one. Melanie, you're doing a great, very good.
Thank you.
Let me say detailed summary. If I can say that. The summary was every point.
Thank you. Anyway, it was quite insightful. I think that if we all take these 4 tips, I mean, these 6, there are 6 of them. We have 6 tips on how to apply for these programs. I'm sure if we concentrate on them and read them carefully, we will be successful in many of our exploits in applying for these programs.